Hello, it's Dan Garcia here again, back with another video for you guys. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down E.T. by Katy Perry from the recreating hybrid drums I did on it. So I'm going to open up the Ableton session, talk you through triggers, how I did it all native to Ableton, and show you a couple of cool little tricks. The main focus for this video is going to be dealing with triggers, not pads. So when I say triggers, I mean the little things that you clip onto your drums. So in this video, I used one for my snare and one for my kick. This is what they look like. So that just clips on to the kick drum and then sends a signal, and you can layer a sample onto your acoustic sound, which is really, really cool. If you haven't checked it out already, I would urge you to watch my breakdown of Billie Eilish's Strange Addiction. The link is here or here. The link is somewhere in this video, where I talk through how to create a drum rack, how to route that to sends and returns, how to automate sounds on and off, how to use a chain selector to help you, have the sounds that you want for your performance. So if you haven't checked that out, do that first, because there's some stuff I'm going to talk about where I'm going to assume that you have the knowledge on the drum racks, because I don't need to cover it twice and you don't need to hear it twice. The other thing I will say is I'm self-isolating at the minute, so I haven't got my mic with me, which is why it sounds like this. So sorry, just you're going to have to forgive that. This is my session. I did it in Ableton 11 this time, which was wicked, because Ableton 11 has take lanes. So the pink stuff is all my actual drums, so kick in, kick out, snare top, blah 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 blah. That's the acoustic drums that I've recorded and mixed in Ableton. The yellow one is my triggers. So the snare trigger and the kick trigger, which are the little things that clipped on, and then trigger 6, trigger 9, and Katy 10 are the pads that I'm hitting. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about those, although there is some cool stuff I will share with those. Hopefully you can see it, but my face might be in the way. The green one under here is my drum rack. Will it open up? Yes. This is where I've got my trigger 6, trigger 9, and Katy 10 with their samples loaded in. Again, if you're not sure how to create this, go back to the Strange Addiction breakdown. I'm not using trigger 7 and trigger 8 in this song, although I did use it in those two triggers in the other Katy Perry songs. So they're empty for this one, which is kind of cool. They are then routed out of the drum rack to my sends and returns, so that I can use those sends and returns. Here they are. To convert into audio files that audio signals that I can process and deal with. I've also got automation going on some of these, I think, but we'll dive into that. So if you want to know how I got the audio to play along to, again, that's in the Strange Addiction video. I've used an app called Moises to separate the stems out. It's quite good, it's not perfect. It certainly does the job for what I need. And for these videos, this series, or this season I should say, I've done live versions of Katy Perry songs because the arrangements are slightly different to the record. So since I'm recreating the hybrid drums and how you use Ableton in a live scenario, that's why I've done that. And you can probably hear some weird crowd noises at the start. So the audio is taken from the YouTube videos of her Prismatic World Tour, which I will put in the link in the description below. Just to finish off my sends and returns, the blue one here is a reverb that I've added to my samples just to soften the end of them. Some of them cut a bit hard and they didn't sound great, so that's just to soften that. And the green ones, the snare verb and the space, are for my acoustic drums when I mix them. I'm not going to talk about my mix process, but if there is interest in that, let me know in the comments and I can make a video on how I mix and edit drums for myself. I will say that I didn't enjoy mixing in Ableton. Normally I do all my mixing in Logic and it makes far more sense to me. and there's something about the way it looks and feels that I feel like I get a better mix in Logic, but I wanted to try all of this native to Ableton, and this is the result. So let's go back to the arrange window. The first thing I did was set out my locators so I can see where I'm at in arrangement view with my automation. Okay, let's take a look at these triggers. So I'm going to open up the triggers and we're going to go into snare trigger and kick trigger. So what I've used is a plugin called ApTrigga. Now if I click on the snare trigger, ApTrigga you can see is here. I'll open the interface. Now, something to be aware of, it seems to be whenever I open ApTrigga or whenever I open the project, it disables the automation, which can be extremely frustrating if you don't know that's going on. So you just have to click this little arrow at the top that comes up in a different color. Mine's like a reddy orange. So I'll click that and the automation will be re-enabled. So this is ApTrigga. It's got two views, detector and generator. And all you do is drag and drop a sample. I've got this one loaded in, which is the snare that I found for ET. And basically all you do is you automate the threshold down when you want the sample to fire. So let's open up the automation so I can show that to you. So let's go here where you see the red dot, which is the parameter that I've automated. I'm going to right click it and hit show automation in a new lane. Right, that throws up a lot of automation, so let's find the right one. And we're looking here, ApTrigga threshold. If I go to the second chorus, you can see that this automation is up at 1 when I don't want it to fire, and when I do, it comes down 30-second note before I strike the drum. So let's play that. And you can see that the threshold comes down to allow that transient through to then fire the sample. Let me solo that out so you can hear it as well. So none of the other audio is picking up. It's just that one strike coming through. And it's exactly the same on the kick drum. So if I go to the kick trigger, open up ApTrigga on the kick, turn that automation back on, and show the threshold automation in a new lane. There it is. And it does the same thing. Comes on a 30-second note before and after the last strike. Bit different because there's two kick strikes, but here we go. Let's solo the kick so you can hear it. Easy. And that's it. That's literally it. It's so simple. What I will say about ApTrigga is I've not worked out how to layer samples. I don't know if it's possible to layer samples in ApTrigga. By that I mean have a kick sound for the verse and a kick sound for the chorus, and you only trigger one of them. So obviously you don't want to trigger the chorus sound in the verse. The only way I found around that is to create two channels. So they'll have the same input, but they'll have a different sample on, and you'll just automate the threshold on and off when you want it to fire. Now, I have forgotten to tell you how to get the signal from your trigger to the computer. What you do is you plug the cable from your physical trigger direct into your interface. That goes straight into your interface, and then you set the input to whatever input channel you put it in. So for me, I put my snare into 23 and my kick into 21. That made sense for what I'm doing. But if you might just be running this and you're just going to put it in input 1, input 2. And as long as you make sure that your audio channel in Ableton is receiving that information, you're good to go. Drop your sample in, automate your threshold, done. That is about it for triggering with ApTrigga. Right, the next thing I want to show you guys is a transpose sweep, or like a pitch shift. So let me close out the triggers, and this is in the drum rack. So I'm going to open up my drum rack, and I'm going to go into trigger 6 onto the snare, the 808 snare, and you'll see that on the transposition thing I've automated it. So let's open that in a new lane. So I'll let you hear it first. And I'll solo that out. Cool. So a kind of normal range for a transposition is +20 to -12, -12, with a slightly steeper curve in the second half, which you can see I've added here. Important to make sure that you start at 0 before and after, so your sample will fire at the pitch that you want it to normally, and then just for this little section it does this little sweep. And then it flicks back to the ET snare sample. Let me show you that in the chain selector. There it is. So 16 on the chain selector, which is the 808 snare. It does its thing and it goes straight back to 8, where I've got my ET snare sample. Again, deep dive on that in the Strange Addiction video. Right, the last thing I want to share is a cool little filter sweep that happens in the breakdown. So let's open up triggers, because then you can actually see the audio that we're dealing with. And it happens across trigger 6 and the KT10, so a kick and a snare thing. So let's, and I've done it individually. So let me open up those automations. So let's do the KT10 first. Go onto the KT10, select the sample, and you can see that I've put an EQ on here and I've automated the frequency. So let's show that in a new lane. There's that one, and let's do the same with the snares. So that's trigger 6, ET snare, across to the EQ, show automation in the new lane, and then we've got both of them. So we've got the snare here and the kick here. So let's just take a listen. So you can see it opens out as it builds to the final chorus. I'll solo that out for you so you can hear just the EQ curve. Nice and easy, just gives a little build to that final chorus. Okay, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, reach out, leave a comment, drop me a message. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan Garcia Drums. Don't forget to check out the video of this and all the other recreating hybrid drums that I've done. Give us a like if you liked it. If you don't, then keep it to yourself. Subscribe if you want more. And yeah, like I say, if we've got any questions, just reach out to me and hopefully I can help. Obviously I've not gone into how I mixed the drums in Ableton or recorded them using take lanes and linking the tracks, which is a wicked new feature of 11. If you want to see a video on that, I can go through that, or I can explain my mix process for sure. So yeah, just let me know. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.